Thank you for joining me on the way forward. I'm Eddie Francis, and joining me on the way forward is someone I'm really happy to have on the show. His name is Quintin Taylor. He is the Chancellor of Parishes Community College. I've actually been on your campus a couple of times. It was years ago, but I've had the opportunity to visit RPCC. So, Chancellor Taylor, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Eddie. Thanks for having me on the show. Look forward to the conversation, and I hope your visit to campus was a memorable one and pleasurable as well.
It actually was. It was actually very, very cool to see it. And it was one of those things where I was driving by the campus. At the time, I was working for the education division of monster.com. And I was
Hmm.
doing these talks around the country with a bunch of other speakers. And I was driving by the campus and and I just happened to be on that road, and I was going, wait a minute, I didn't know there was a community college here. So I actually turned into the campus just so I could go meet somebody over there. And it was really cool to get a chance to meet some of the folks at RPCC. So,
Happy to hear
so let's
that.
start. Let's start about talking about the impact. If you were to talk about RPCC's impact on Southeast Louisiana, how would you describe it?
Man, monumental, right? And so I don't want to understate or overstate that, but I think our impact can be felt from the throughout the entire river region, right? And so it starts with our four campuses, Eddie. We have four campuses that literally align the Mississippi River, hence the name River Parishes Community College. And so that starts as far northwest as our campus in Iberville Parish in the city of Plaquemine. Then we've got our main campus, which is in Gonzales, which is the campus that you stumbled upon. Then we have our other campus in St. John Parish, which is our reserve campus. And then we have our boutique campus, which is in the St. Charles uh, Parish. And so, and a new campus soon to come on the west bank of Ascension Parish in Donaldsonville. Very, very excited about that. We'll get a chance to talk about that some when we get into the conversation about the Hyundai Steel Corporation moving into Louisiana. So our impact is very broad. It's very strong. I mean, when you talk about reaching students in high school, because we have a early college on our campus where we have high school students from across Ascension Parish, 400 to be exact, who spend their entire 4 years in high school with us, and they'll graduate 2 weeks from today with their high school diploma and an associate's degree that we believe have prepared them for one or two things. Number one, hopefully it's prepared them to go into the workforce, to make them marketable. Number two, if they so choose to transfer to one of our local 4 year universities, then there's a seamless transfer option in that for them. And so that population, we believe it's impacting them. Then when you talk about our adult basic education population, so that's the adult who may not have finished high school for one reason or another. They've come to us to earn their high school equivalency. But what we've done, Eddie, is it's not just enough to get that equivalency, right? For some people, it's a goal, and man, we want to check that box and salute and congratulate them if that what success looks like for them. But we believe that just earning that high school equivalency does it really make that person marketable and competitive in the marketplace? I tend to think not. And so what we've done is we've embedded what we call integrated educational training. What does that look like? That means while a student whose adult basic education is taking or working on that equivalency, they are simultaneously earning a short term workforce credential, whether it be electrical, whether it be pipe fitting, whether it be welding, you fill in the blank. So that way, when they earn that equivalency, Eddie, they also have a marketable skill that makes him or her employable the minute they earn that high school equivalency. Then the third piece of that puzzle is your traditional, in air quotes, college student who comes to us and they may enroll in one of our preeminent programs such as process technology, instrumentation and electrical, or our LPN program, where that's the associate's degree, where we know for a fact students in those programs that are closely aligned to the market are almost guaranteed to get a job, and not just any job, but a good paying job that they can take care of themselves and or family should they have one or at the appropriate time when the family becomes a part of their journey. And then last but not least, We do what we call short-term workforce training, right? So that might be the person who has some college, no degree, or has a degree and just trying to bounce around and finding themselves, or they're employed or an incumbent worker, as we call them, and their employer says, "Hey, you have levels 1 and 2, but we need you to go and get level 3 so that we can promote you for advancement." And then they'll come to the community college. They'll take that level 3 certification, short term, compressed, oftentimes in the evening, that allows them to go back to that employer and say, "Employer, I've earned that level 3 certification." They get the promotion. Most importantly, or just as important, I don't want to say most important because some people have different motivations, but just as important as that promotion is now the increase in wages, so that they can take care of their families, right? And so the question was broad, and I gave you a very broad answer. And I apologize for being so wordy, but it's just that impactful, right? And let me give you real quick one example of that. So in Donaldsonville today, inside the Donaldsonville High School, we went in and repurposed underutilized space that hadn't been used in 30 years. Eddie, I don't know how old you are, but I just made 50 a few weeks ago. And I can remember a time being in high school where I had wood shop or I had metal or you had home ec, those kind of things. And for whatever reasons, those programs no longer exist in the way that they used to. My point is this: the space was still there. It had become a storage closet. And we're talking about 4 large classroom spaces or lab spaces. And knowing what was on the horizon from a economic development and projects and announcements that were coming along down the pipe, I went to our legislature, and specifically our delegation. I went to the superintendent of schools, Dr. Walker, and I said, "What if we went in and repurposed this space and we put in programming that we know students during the day for dual enrollment can take advantage of, but then adults in the evening who do not have the skill sets to go to work?" In 1 year's time, we turned those spaces into a process technology lab, a fully functioning welding lab, a fully functioning instrumentation and electrical lab, and class and a computer lab. And so during the day, right now, this morning, there are students at Donaldsonville High School taking dual enrollment courses in those programs I just mentioned. But in the evening, after 5, we have adults in that community and the surrounding communities accessing those same programs. Let's get to the impact point. We've had we've had 37, I believe, individuals to complete a welding certification, anywhere from level 1 to level 4. Every one of them have been hired. One of the greatest success stories is a young lady by the name of Taylor, who went from bussing tables, I'm not bussing, waiting tables, and doing other odd jobs at convenience stores and the like, to where she's now making $38 an hour plus $100 a day per diem. That is impact.
And she probably never thought she would get there.
Never thought she would get there.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And so when you talk about impact, and there's thousands of stories across those 4 mission points that I touched on.
Mhm.
That one just happens to be in that workforce short-term development training space. But really excited about the college, really excited about the impact. And so, yeah, that speaks to our impact up and down the river.
No, no, thank you so much for being so thorough in that because I think there are a lot of things that people may not even realize with their things that were happening. I really love the resourcefulness of using the space at Donaldsonville High School. I mean, a lot of people just don't think to do that sort of thing. With that being said, talk about some of the programs that you've been rolling out. I mean, we I get the privilege every week of checking out the colleges and universities news pages, and hats off to your folks because the news keeps coming about what's happening at RPCC. So hats off to Landon
Yeah,
and the work that you're doing over there. But talk about your new programs that you've been doing.
yeah. So thank you for the compliment. Landon is a really sharp young man who has a really bright future, not just in the communications and marketing space, but in higher education overall. And
Oh,
so,
okay,
yeah, no doubt
okay.
about it. And I can say that because I started out as the communications and marketing guy for our community college system some 13 years ago. right?
Okay.
I'm not the traditional chancellor, Eddie. I did not go through the ranks of academia like many in this field have. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity, but I see similarities in my journey and Landon's journey. And so I'm going to pour into him all I can to help him get to whatever success looks like for him,
So
right?
let me say this. Let me say this. Marketing and communications people from higher ed unite, because that's my path as well. Don't you make me think I can be a president. Some people are going to be in trouble.
Listen, man, I can assure you, you can, right? And so,
No, that's okay. I'm good.
yeah, but you know what, Eddie? Just off topic for a second. I thought I was too because I was having a
Yeah.
great time. I was doing really good work, and I was having impact to the previous question.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the impact that I'm able to have at the college level in the communities, negotiating deals, bringing people together, convening groups who would have never been in the same space to begin to think differently about how we do what each of us do in our respective spaces for the greater good of the whole and the community has been more impactful than I could have ever imagined. Speaking to the Donatonville project, that was some harebrained idea I had because, well, you know, man, marketers, we have harebrained ideas
We do.
all the
we,
time.
we take a look at that one thing and we go, huh? How can we
That's it.
complete the sentence?
That's it,
Yeah.
right? And so I think the beauty in that is bringing that perspective to the higher education space
Yeah.
has forced a lot of people to look at this thing differently and say, well, we don't have to do it the way we've done it for the past fill in the blank number of years, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
no knock or disrespect to the profession because it
Yeah.
is noble, it is hard and difficult work. So I don't want to misrepresent the passion and what people have done over the years because there's a lot of great work that has happened. But I
Yeah.
just fundamentally think different, and I just think our minds are wired differently than
Hmm.
traditionalists in terms of the academia. And so again, the impact has been great, right? And so speaking to the last question about our programs, man, the team is doing an unbelievable job, Eddie. When we sit around our table of our cabinet, which are my direct reports, which are six, and then our so we got the executive leadership team, which is the cabinet, my vice chancellors, and then we have our leadership team, which consists of our deans, which consists of our program, I'm saying our campus directors, and some other folks at the director level. I always say, let's plan and think strategically as if money was not an issue. My job is to worry about the money and to think globally. And it's your respective jobs to figure out how we take these broad and audacious ideas and bring them to fruition. And so, what you've seen as a result of that big out of the box thinking is the team really sitting down and saying, okay, we've got, let's use healthcare as an example. We have the LPN program, which is great. We've got the medical assistant program, which is great. But where are we, or where are there gaps in the workforce where people can get into the healthcare space because bedside manner might not be their thing? Blood, right? And other what's the proper term? Other medical uh, processes, for lack of better words, might not be their thing. But they want to help people, right? They want to be impactful and help people in rehabilitation and all the things that happen in the healthcare space. And so we began to think about, okay, so when a person walks into the hospital, who's at the desk and what is his job? What is her job? And then what is the demand in that space? And how can we say, okay, you know what? For industry to really find this impactful and beneficial, instead of just producing a patient care technician with one or two skills, what if we broaden that so that patient care technician is able to do maybe five things versus just two. Right now, we've made the patient care technician so much more marketable because they can do more than sit behind the desk and greet a patient as they walk in the door. Right? That's just, that's just one sort of example. Another example is in our energy science division. That's where our process technology and instrumentation and electrical currently exists. So historically, instrumentation and electrical just was always bundled together, right?
Hmm.
But in listening to industry, what we began to see was, should they be bundled together? Because they're two distinct skill sets, right? And what we've learned is that by offering the instrumentation and electrical pathway, right? So the fundamentals are going to be basically the same, right? But then how do we really specialize in one of those areas so that industry gets the most qualified and skilled person that they can? Because being a jack of all trades and a master of none doesn't work in every space,
Right. Right.
right? And so those are just two examples, Eddie. We've got a lot of other programs. One that we're working on right now that I'm really, really excited about. So you've heard me talk about healthcare, and you've heard me talk about process technology and instrumentation, the industrial space, right? Manufacturing, petrochemical, oil and gas. Those aren't going anywhere. And we've got some students who probably aren't cut out to do either one of those things. Doesn't mean that they can't be affiliated. Going back to the patient care technician example, right? Going back to harebrained ideas, I'm sitting down and I'm looking at our different programs, and I care about results. I care about students having an opportunity to be employed,
Yeah.
right? And if we've got students going into a program that does not lead to a family sustaining livable wage, then what are we doing? And as I got to our business program, it's just a general education degree in business. There's some marketing in there. There are some other classes in there, economics and some math skills and some other things. But I said, guys, when a student leaves here with this associate's degree, can they go to work?
Hmm.
And if the answer is no, then we need to look at this program differently. And so while the answer was not an unequivocal no, it was, yeah, they get jobs, but it's
Yeah.
and so I said, guys, I said, we sit literally at the epicenter of the industrial profession. Along the river, and you know this, Eddie, within the four campuses I explained to you, there are 90 different industrial facilities that fall either in petrochemical, oil and gas, or manufacturing. 90.
Yeah.
Guess what they do every day, Eddie? They sell stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every day they're selling something to a client. Every day they have people coming to them, selling them items to do what they need to do.
Hmm.
And I said, guys, why don't we embed an industrial sales
Yep.
component into our business program? Right? And
And
what
it.
happened, I said, well, let me test this. So I went
Hmm.
in and I had lunch with several of the plant managers and just in conversations. And one of them, and I don't want to say their names because I don't have the permission to do that.
Right.
One of them, when I went and met them for lunch, well, I called on the fly and said, "Hey, what you doing for lunch?" Well, I'm about to meet a client, but they're not coming until whatever. I've got an hour. I said, I need an hour of your time. So I met him and we're having lunch and we're talking. And he said, "Yeah, I've got these folks coming to see me. They're trying to sell me $20 million worth of whatever." I said, "Wow." And so we started. I said, "Talk to me about that." He said, "Yeah, well, in just this area, it's about a $200 million budget for just that space." I said, "Really?" I said, "And so what are they selling you?" He told me what they were selling them. I said, "Interesting." I said, "So what's the background for the person to sell to you?" He says, "Well, they just got to have some business sense, right? And they've got to have some integrity, obviously, some of the ethics and that sort of thing." I said, "Okay, cool." I said, "So what are you selling?" Right? He said, "Well, we produce X, and in the process of producing X, We sell. I said, so what is your sales division? What's the budget annually? He said, globally? Or I said, no, just for this site in Louisiana. He says, oh, between 450 and $500 million. I said, a year? He said, yeah, a year. I said, hmm. He says, Chancellor, why you asking me all these questions? And I laid it on him. He said, dude, if you can, if you guys can build that, he says, I will go and find 5 other industry partners, and we will come and sit to the table with you, and we will help you to embed and create an industrial sales program that you can integrate into your general uh, business program.
Wow. And it's simple math. One of the things I really love about 2-year colleges is that the approach to programming is almost always just flat out common sense.
That's it.
It's almost flat out common sense. I mean, I love our 4-year people, but there are times when a 4-year institution will roll out a program and you're going, so why did you do this?
Yeah,
And again, the marketing brain is working, and I'm going, why did what is this in response to? And it turns out that it was some professor who came in and just pitched it and they accepted it and it didn't necessarily fit anything. But 2-year colleges is such a straight line relationship all the
that's it.
time. And I really appreciate that about 2-year colleges. Let me ask you this about alumni or
Sure.
folks who have taken classes. When you look at the impact of RPCC's alumni, folks who have taken classes there, what do you see?
Not enough engagement, quite frankly. And so we know for a fact that we have hundreds and thousands of students working in our backyard today doing really, really well. But we just haven't done a good enough job, frankly, Eddie, of capturing them and engaging with them. So back in December, I moved some chairs around from a budgetary standpoint, and I said we've got to invest in an alumni program. Is it a person? Is it a combination of people? What does that look like? And so what we did was we reimagined our institutional advancement division. That's why you see a lot of stuff coming out now from a comms perspective and a marketing perspective because we've invested
Mm,
in that space um, by hiring Landon. We've also now hired a person who is alumni and community affairs. We are now so much more outwardly focused because we were not telling our story enough. We were not trying to engage with alumni in the way that there was a connection, right? So you know how it goes. 4 year, right? I had a 4 year experience. You had a 4 year experience, and it's a much more emotional connection,
yeah.
right? Because of the games, because of the classics, because of if you're Greek, because of all the things that if you lived on a dormitory, if all the things that go into the 4 year experience makes it emotional, right? Community colleges are more transactional. I'm coming because I want to get a job. And it's a transient sort of model. They come on campus, take the class, and they leave. So the emotional connection just hasn't been there historically. So over the last 6 months to 6 to 8 months, we've been more intentional about having events on campus. So while they're there, right? Let's have a fall fest. Let's have DJs. Let's have rock climbing. Let's have the food trucks. Let's try to build a sense of community and a sense of belonging and that emotional connection. It also starts with us as the chancellor, as instructors and staff. We've got to be so personable, right? I walk around my campus, every one of them, every time I'm on, especially the main campus, but the other campuses, and I'll walk in the classroom. I'll stop a student in the hall because I genuinely want to know, how are you? What's going on? How can we help you? What's next? And as I'm walking around now, they're like, and I say, hey, so and so, did you get that assignment done? Because I just think it's important to have an emotional connection. And the goal is that when they graduate, Eddie, they'll say, man, not the chancellor, but the college invested in me and cared enough to want to know how I'm doing, cared enough to
Yeah.
make it a personal connection. So we're not where we need to be by any means. We're doing some things differently. Like I said, we just invested in an alumni community affairs position. And I do see it paying off. I do see some early returns on that investment, but see me in 2 or 3 years and ask me that question. I'll give you an answer for you.
I gladly will. And I think for people's understanding and reference, RPCC is still a young college. I mean, you're
Great
talking
point.
not even 30 years old. And
26 to be
so
exact.
yeah, so you're not even so you've had to be in that space where you've had to put that kind of infrastructure in place so you can understand what alumni are out there doing and what kind of impact they're having. I want to ask you also very quickly, fun question. All right, so you got Rex the Rougarou. So when I saw a mascot for RPCC, I said, "Oh, what's going on?" And so, does this mean? I know we have club sports, but does this
Yeah.
mean that somewhere in the future we may see intercollegiate sports a little bit? Maybe.
Listen, the former athlete in me, I would love to be able to offer intercollegiate athletics.
Yeah.
The businessman and looking at the bottom line is prohibitive, right?
Yeah.
At least today it
Understandable.
is. Today it is, right? But what I will tell you is this: with all that we're doing, with all of the expansion and the growth that's happening in the river region and within river parishes area specifically, I, I wouldn't be surprised if we get to a point where we've got 8 to 10,000 students enrolled. And when we get to that point, whether I'm the chancellor or not, um, I would have done my best to put in the infrastructure so that when the time comes, it can happen, right? And so everything that I'm doing today is about a 15 to 20-year outlook for me. It's not about what we're doing today. It's about 15 or 20 years down the line. So whoever the next chancellor, the next group of students, the next instructor, the next dean, we have built something that's sustainable and something that can continue to grow. That makes this that creates wealth for the institution, that creates wealth for our endowments, and that creates a space of conducive to teaching and learning and excellence. And so long answer short, no to the collegiate athletics. But long term, I think we'll be able to get there as we grow the college and continue to grow enrollment.
So, just so people can know, what Rex is for now, what we're calling Rex for now, and this is our marketing term, is a spirit symbol. And
Yeah,
so that
that's it.
is quite all right. It's good to have Rex the Rougarou around to represent RPCC. So
Yes,
um
indeed.
I always end the conversations with leaders by asking about how the community can get involved with the institution.
Yeah.
So, what can folks do if they want to get involved with RPCC in some way, or if you have folks who want to partner with RPCC in some way, how can they do that?
Yeah, so by all means, we welcome partnerships. We welcome the community to want to come in and be a part of the institution because we've got the name community, the word community in our name. And I just don't believe that we have historically embraced the community, right? It's not always about give us, right? We've got to do some giving, and so that's part of what this movement and some of the things that we're doing. But if people wanted to come in and help to tutor, right? If they're a former math and science teachers specifically who want to help us, because I don't want to get in the political space, but there are some programs that look like they may not be around any longer that specifically provides services for tutoring to our most vulnerable students. We would absolutely welcome someone to come in or someone's people who have the qualifications to come in and help tutor some of our students. We've got opportunities for people to come in and help to volunteer when we're having all kinds of different events. And if you just want to be a part of the Chancellor's think tank, I welcome that as well. Reach out to us, Taylor at rpcc.edu, and we'll respond. Like we're not going to turn down any legitimate help to move the college forward and to improve the lives of students.
Chancellor Quintin Taylor, who is the Chancellor of River Parishes Community College. Now, one thing I need to get in here, if I'm not mistaken, I thought I saw somewhere on your resume, your LinkedIn, that you graduated from Bethune-Cookman.
The fabulous Bethune Cookman College, now Bethune Cookman University. Yes.
All right, well, good enough that this is an HBCU friendly space, and so it is always good to have an HBCU alum on the way forward. And I hear you working at HBCU ethos into your leadership. I see what's happening here. I see what's happening here.
That's it.
Chancellor Taylor, thank you so much for joining me on the way forward.
Thank you, Eddie, so much for the opportunity, man. Look forward to talking to you again soon.